Hello. Um, if you're new here or you're a returning viewer, my name is Safia. Today I'm going to kind of go over a couple of things. I've been away for a while and this is my first video in maybe 4 or 5 months. So just wanted to show and share a little bit of growth that I've had as a thrower, as a potter. So in the first half of this video, you're going to see me kind of go through some of my throwing processes and see maybe some of the tools that I use and things like that. And in the second part of this video, I'm going to kind of talk about a little bit of why I've been away for so long. And as you can see, I'm in my room. This is where I throw. It's quite messy. I would say that I've had a depression room for quite some time, but hopefully you can overlook that. Today I am throwing with a cone 10 clay body. It's sort of like a dark clay body. I think it's called Toast. And it's very warm when it's fired. It's my first time throwing with it, but I've seen it in the studio and I think it's really lovely. Right now I kind of just go through and I section out the clay that I want to use, and then I use my wire tool and I section it out into kind of 4 pieces. And those 4 pieces I end up just condensing into a ball so that they're more workable, more manageable when I put them on the wheel. I will then kind of put that off to the side. I usually have a bag that I'll throw them in, but today is kind of a rush day. I'm a little unprepared. I wasn't planning on shooting a video, but here we are. So just getting ready. I kind of just start off by cleaning my wheel head, prepping it with a little bit of water. I like it to be a little bit wet because I think that the clay sticks better to the surface without having to apply too much pressure. So I clean that up, and once it's clean and ready to go, I just give it a little, I give my bit of clay a nice last minute pat into a ball and I chuck it on the wheel head. These days, I think that I've gotten much better at coning. I believe it's called coning. And that's when you, I don't actually really know what it is, but you're basically helping to align the clay particles by sort of pulling and pushing. And I think that's in some ways condensing the clay into one more unified body. And I think it really helps me to center, and it helps the clay feel more together and not too soft in my hands. So I really enjoy coning these days, and I've gotten much better over the last several months doing it. It's kind of a strange process to describe. I think when I'm coning, I tend to pull it to one side, and then as I'm compressing it, I'm sort of leaning it to one side, and then at the very bottom, I smooth it out. It's kind of a hard process to explain, but it's more of a feel. Once I've done that several times, I kind of make sure the clay is centered in a nice little donut shape, and I use my thumb to create an indentation in the clay body. And this helps for when I then pull like that first initial wall foundation. Once that donut shape is kind of set, I'll take my sponge and just run it along the bottom of that sort of area that I've kind of pulled out. And you do this because you want to condense that clay at the bottom. When you're throwing and you're pulling your walls, you're applying pressure to that clay. And if you don't apply a similar amount of pressure to the bottom when you first start, I think what they call it is an S crack. That can form later on when the clay is drying or when the clay is fired in a bisque fire or glaze fire. And I think it's just has to do with the inconsistency of condensing in the clay. So I've kind of done my first pull here. It's kind of rushed, and you'll see me go back and I think do it again. But I pull my first wall by kind of pushing the clay from the bottom to the top against my finger. Once I've done that, I'll usually try to condense the rim of the clay just to make sure it's not wobbly and it kind of has a nice evenness to it. My second pull is when I really get under and I grab that clay from the bottom, and I've got my right hand on the bottom and my left hand on top, and you can see that a little sort of bulge forms as I move my hands upwards in like a unified motion. So at that point, I'm pushing with my right hand inward, and I'm sort of pushing with my left hand outward just slightly. I then try to collar in the very top of the clay thus far. I think that when you do this, it helps avoid the clay from splaying out too much. I want it to be sort of narrower towards the top, and this helps you pull more, I think. I think this is like my third pull, and this was a nice even pull. You can see that the clay didn't go that much higher, but it kind of evened out the clay wall and made it more unified. And I'll just end that off every pull with like a quick condensing of the rim. I love to do that. I think it's nice, but I think I've seen a lot of people avoid doing that. I guess I'm going in for another pull, which usually you don't do more than 3, but hey, if you feel like you can, why not? And again, you can see me start at the bottom. There's a really nice bulge, and just pulling that clay up. You can see it lengthens a little bit at the top, but not too much. But I don't know, maybe the walls just kind of felt a little uneven. And then once again, I ended off by condensing that rim. I take my sponge, and there's always a little pool of water in the middle, and I just kind of grab that sponge and suck a little bit of that water out, clean off my wheel head, and then kind of prepare more of like a clean surface to continue on with this, what I hope to be an angular mug. So I've got this tool here, and there's many tools you can use, but I like this tool because it's easy, comes in a lot of different sets, and I use this tool to trim out the very bottom of my cylinder. And you can see I grab the tool and I flush it to the wall, and I bring it all the way down to the wheel head, and then I create sort of like an angle and push it in towards the center of the cylinder. And this kind of creates a little angled, I don't know, divot. And I put that tool back into that divot, and then you'll see me bring the tool down. And when I do that, I grab all of that extra clay right up off the wheel head. And I really like this tool for that because it's so diverse. You can use it for so many different things. And I think it's just a great, cheap, easy tool to use. And if you can master that, you'll never need another tool ever, I promise. So after I've cleaned that up, and it's got a nice clean bottom, just kind of center out the clay a bit, make sure it's not wobbling too much. I really love using my fingers these days, and you can see that I'm actually using my fingers to create some nice uniform form. and I think your fingers are the next best tool. So you'll see me go through in the next little bit, fleshing out some angular details in this, what I hope to be a mug. And a lot of this is just on the fly. I've got no sort of preconceived ideas. I just feel it out. I actually found that this clay was not super drying, but more drying than the previous clay I was using, which is a cone 10 porcelain. So you'll see me quite often dip my hands in a bucket, and I'm just kind of grabbing from the water because I feel the clay friction against my fingernails or my fingertips, and I don't like when it grabs it. I feel like I'm gonna lose a lot of control, so I end up just wetting it slightly. Overall, I'd say I'm pretty happy with the shape of this one, how this one turned out. I've been kind of gravitating more towards these sort of angular, mugged forms, and just playing around with the different sort of details I can create. A lot of them end up looking very similar, but and iterative of each other, but I think that's kind of nice and a great way to kind of flesh out various ideas. I like to use this tool here just to kind of refine or define some of the more angular bits that I've created, and I think it's a great tool. There's other tools you can use, but this one feels very firm, very sturdy in my hand, and I like just some of the shapes that it has. And then taking a sponge, and I know there's a lot of water on this form here because I just kept feeling that clay get really rough in my fingertips, and then just going back and forth and defining more bits. I think when you define more bits, it helps when you trim so that you have a better guide, but it's not necessary. You can always define it when you're trimming. I just like to have a kind of a guide or an idea of how I want the form to look. At this point, I'll take this kind of sponge contraption that I created out of a trimming tool and then a sponge that I just wrapped around the end of it with an elastic band. I'll use this when I've kind of completed a form because I don't want to use a big sponge and potentially destroy or cause divots in the form. So this is a really nice tool to get really deep in, especially if you've got a tall form, to get really deep in the bottom. Once I've kind of flushed out all the water, I'll take actually a hair dryer, and I'll actually use that hair dryer just to dry the form a bit more. I've found that in the past I rush too quickly to take the form off the wheel head, and I end up actually damaging like the cylindricalness of it. And for me, I struggle with it. Maybe for others it wouldn't be a problem, but I use a hair dryer just to dry it a tiny bit. You don't want to go too much because, it starts to shrink unevenly and you don't want that. So I just use it to dry general parts of the body of the form for maybe a minute or 2 or 3. So that when I take it off that wheel head, it maintains that cylindricalness of it. And then once that feels or looks like it's dry enough, I'll take my sponge, soak it with some water, and I try to wet the base of the wheel head as much as I can, or like the face of the wheel head as much as I can with water. And then you'll see me take my wire tool and I start in front of the mug form, and I just rip it, pull it back. This one did a really good job of hydroplaning along the water. You can see that it glides very smoothly. And I'm just able to then pick it up off the wheel head. It doesn't warp or doesn't change. The cylindricalness of it is maintained, and I'll just put it off to the side on a board that I've got hanging around, and that's pretty much it. That's like my whole throwing process these days. Not too fancy. I don't have any fancy tools that I use just yet. And I think that's kind of good for you to kind of get an idea of you don't need anything fancy to throw. I think that you can make use of very minimal tools and even your fingers. And I think that allows you to actually get a better idea of how clay moves and how it feels. So, yeah, I'll just start that process again. Um, I kind of ran out of time today because I had a doctor's appointment, but I end up throwing one more angular mug, and I'm happy with the progress that I got this morning.
I want to talk about a couple of things. I've been absent for the last, I think, 4 or 5 months. I'm not too sure. And during this time, I kind of went through a really rough patch, I think, in my emotional and physical state. I think depression got to me a bit, and I was just not feeling myself. At the same time, I took a lot of opportunities to better some of these aspects of my life. I took some classes, some night classes, which are still ongoing. I went on a trip, a really lovely, gorgeous, inspiring trip to Quebec. Um, and I spent a lot of time just contemplating where I'm at in my life and why I'm feeling so much loss and emptiness and depression, and how I can sort of improve my state of being, my well being, and what I want my actions and who I want to be moving forward. And I feel like right now, I don't know, I'm kind of in a in between, in a limbo state, because I'm doing better than I was in previous months, but I'm still kind of struggling with who I am, what I want to be, what I'm doing, and what I can do to get there, to reach some sense of self fulfillment. So, I want to talk about a couple of things that over the last couple of months I've kind of come to a realization, or at least have become more clear in my resolve towards. So, number one, as much as I feel that, um, you've got to build a career and work and earn money and make a living for yourself, I think that wholeheartedly you should pursue something that you have general interest and general passion and have a drive for 100%. I think that life is too short. I think that you need to push yourself to pursue your dreams, and I think that you should stop at nothing to make that a reality. And I think that maybe that's a privilege. I think a lot of people in a lot of places don't have that opportunity. And I think even in this first world country, a lot of people don't have that opportunity. So it's about looking at what you want for your life and what you can achieve in your life. And I think that um, unfortunately, a lot of people are just on survival mode, and every day they go to work and they come home and they're exhausted and they don't have time to think of their dreams and their passions that they left behind, because they're too focused on paying bills, feeding their family, recovering, getting rest, and being able to start the day over again. And we spend how many years of our lives doing that? And I think that thought came to me because I was feeling so empty inside, and I wanted to, um, I think that contributed a lot to the depression I was feeling, and I needed to change. So I think that for me, in my personal life, I have to strive for my passions and my dreams, and I can't let the ideas of societal norms and um, more more suitable, more common ways of living, like it's been inbred, it's been taught to us that we spend 8 to 9 hours at work and then we go home and we cook, we clean, we take care of our family, and that's like this dream, the American dream. And you slave your life away until you're 65 for that dream. And I think about how many years it's taken me to even figure out who I am as a person, and I'm still figuring out. I'm 28 years old and I'm still figuring out who I am as a person. And let's be honest with ourselves. Say I live to 80 or 90 years old, 28 or 30, that's almost half of my life gone. And I've just started to figure out who I am as a person. And now that I've kind of come to some sort of realization, it's like I don't even have the money, I don't even have the time to be who I am because I'm so focused on living and surviving. So that is a thought that came to me. And I think my resolve has kind of strengthened or feels more grounded in the fact that I need to strive for what I want in this life, because I only have one life to live. And how I choose to live that life is going to be a reflection of the years that come in my future, if that makes any sense. So I think, I hope that more people can pursue their dreams and their passions and not compare themselves to a societal norm or an expectation. And I know that's hard, but I wish that everyone can find goodness within themselves. And when you find goodness and self fulfillment within yourself, you attract goodness, and you attract goodness in other people, and you build communities with goodness and love and respect and kindness. And then hopefully we build that kind of society. Anyways, that's the first thing that I've come to realize. The second thing I came to realize is that I, um, I think I'm putting too much pressure on this idea of perfection and getting to a place of um, high skill and high technique. I think on this channel, I started off by saying, I want to master, throwing and pottery and ceramics within 365 days. And I think if I really calculate it now, I think I'm at like 149 days left to go before I master it. And I am thinking to myself, realistically, that's not possible. And why should I limit myself to a time frame to master something? And I think that was the idea, and it helped me motivate myself to get up every day and practice and pursue it. And I really did practice like almost every single day. And I did see such a huge improvement. If you look back on some of the videos in my earlier days and some of the videos I recently posted, such a huge difference. And I'm so grateful that I pushed myself. Um, and I really tried to stick with like, okay, learning new techniques and improving. And I think that was really helpful and beneficial to my growth that I see today. But I don't want to place that limitation on myself. I don't want to place that pressure. And I think there's so much more you can learn about the medium and the art and the community of pottery and ceramics if I don't have these sort of expectations. I think expectations can lead to great sadness, but um, they can lead to great happiness and, success, but I think they can lead to great sadness and um, kind of putting yourself down when you don't achieve something. So I'm kind of letting that idea go. I'm still pursuing this idea of mastering or at least gaining more wealth of knowledge within the medium, but this pressure that we put on ourselves to be perfect, and then when we're not and we feel ashamed and we feel so much guilt, it's not for me. I want to abandon that idea. I'm not perfect. This is a journey. Our whole lives are a journey, and the most we can do for ourselves is every day try. Every day try and strive for something that you believe in, something that feels good within you. Um, and there's the cliche saying, shoot for what is it? Shoot for the stars, land on a cloud. So if you pursue something every single day and you strive for it and you have this goal in your mind and maybe you don't reach that goal, but you land somewhere in between. And I think that for me, when I think of mastering something within a year, I think to myself, that's an expectation that can also be a limiting factor. So let me see where this goes. And maybe I end up switching mediums. Maybe I end up opening a door that leads me into a different medium, a different path, a different artistry. So I'm giving myself room to explore and draft and generate ideas and be iterative and make mistakes and learn from them. So that's the second thing that I've kind of come to a more of like a realization about. And then I think lastly, I forgot the last point I wanted to make, but I think it was along the lines of trying to focus more on the art rather than like building a brand. I don't know for myself. Like, what do I want from this channel? Like, I think I want to focus on my journey, not just as a potter or like a ceramic artist or whoever I end up becoming, like a journey about who I am and my thoughts and my ideas and how those things are sort of intertwined and how they bounce off of each other and how they disseminate and deconstruct and also build and regenerate and grow. So something along those lines, but I can't quite remember. Um, but yeah, I think that overall we're human, and I think that we have a limited time on this earth and to experience things. And I urge you to think about your philosophy of living and what you hope to aspire and complete in your life. And I'm not saying to think about it so deeply that it feels, overbearing and overloading and you feel such a strain. I'm asking you to contemplate why we believe the things that we believe and where were we taught them and how does it benefit our lives? And if it's possible, can we rethink how we want to live our lives? I think that's where I'm getting at. There's a lot more that I could talk about, but I think that encompasses sort of my the entirety of my thoughts the last 4 or 5 months that I've been absent from YouTube. And I do want to say that my trip to Quebec was really eye opening for me. I think that I saw a lot of beauty and a lot of peace and a lot of serenity, and I thought to myself, if this is just in my backyard, like what more is there in the world to experience, and what more is there to explore and to, integrate into my life? And I think I yearn for that now. Like coming back, I yearn for those experiences and just becoming more whole and more complete as a person. And I'm not saying that you have to travel or you have to go out of your way to do things that you've never done before, but when you think about it, every day we live the same life and we do it on repeat, and it's become so natural, so habitual to us that these experiences, they really do kind of ignite. They're a catalyst to some sort of unlocked potential in your mind. I really truly feel like that. Try to put yourself in new experiences, and even if it's just like you never go to the movie theater alone, try. Or you never go to a bookstore and just read a book, try. Or you never go on walks by the beach alone, or you've never asked your friend, you know what their favorite color is, things like that. Put yourself in interesting positions to experience new things. Life is about experiences and trying. And really, that's it. And allow that for yourself. Don't edit yourself. Allow for growth and allow for renewal, I guess. Allow for change in you as a person. And it's not linear, it's not always going to be progressive and upward. It will be down and back and forth and around. And that is what encompasses the human experience, right? So,
I appreciate you tuning in and following along my throwing process and listening to me ramble on about ideas and thoughts floating in my head. I've also set up an Instagram. My handle is just at Safia Figaro, the same name that I've got for my YouTube. And I've started posting some of my work so far, my work in progress and things that I've done. And I hope to work on that a bit more and post more and hopefully have some giveaways going on there and interact more with the viewers and share my finished work. And yeah, I'm really so grateful for the people, the folks watching and commenting and being so supportive. And yeah, I hope to have that giveaway so that I can really give back to the people who have really supported me. So I appreciate you. And I hope you have a lovely day. All right, take care. Bye.